good people! Let me know if anything's too loud. Anyways, that is my dog in the background. We are going to read today. We're doing some voice acting today. A little bit different, out of the norm. But, I thought it would be pretty fun, seeing as I've searched the creative stream and saw this. We are going to read The Cannibals of Candyland by Carlton Mellick III. What's up, Limit? How are you? Yes, and my chicken poppers are here. Blind Gamer, thank you for the host. I appreciate it. Welcome to this Freaky Friday Storybook Edition.
Go ahead, Andre.
Alright.
Is your mic on and everything's on?
Everything's on. Everything is on.
Alright.
Everything's on. Oh, wow. You guys can't even see the words on that. Or maybe you should have, like, tested that. Hold on. I got this. Image.
Somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence.
That's my phone. We're gonna turn this off. Turn this down. There we go. Alright. But how are you guys? How's everything? How are you, Lemon? How are you, Blind? You're good as a melting popsicle? That's not good. I don't like the sound of that. You know what? Cancel. Chat. Edit. Here we go. We'll put that right there.
Story time!
Story time! You ready, Mom?
Yeah.
Alright. Chapter 1. Franklin hates children, loves animals, and is deathly afraid of candy people. He also hates riding the bus, talking to people on the phone, talking to people in person, dancing, getting haircuts, modern politics, and the sound of vacuum cleaners. Popular men's fashion, getting stared at, getting presents, having a boss, Chinese food, and has 2 wives. That's one hell of a mouthful. He also loves walking around downtown, playing with the puppies at the pet store. Hey, me too. Reading history books, listening to Mozart and death metal, watching the sound of autumn, leaves rustling in the wind. Sound like me on Saturday. Making sandwiches, talking about books, blowing up balloons, historical politics, growing older, giving presents, working for himself, chess, Korean food, and wearing red. He's also afraid of pretty much everything. Red is his favorite color. All of his clothes are red. He likes the particular shade of red that he calls apple red. It is bright red with a hint of orange. His wives always say, "Your clothes are too orangish to be called apple red." He always responds with, "When I was a boy, my parents had a tree in front of the yard that grew apples of this color." His wives always shake their heads at him. Franklin walks down the sidewalk in an apple red suit, wearing red gloves, a red baseball cap, and holding a red umbrella over his head. He shines loudly at every person who passes him. The people in his neighborhood have grown used to his glowing attire, but whenever he enters a new part of the city, he can feel everyone's eyes on him. This is a bad part of Chinatown, and not the kind of place where you'd want to stand out. A small gang of what Franklin believes to be the triad eye of him. The triads eye him from across the street near the entrance of the Asian strip club. If it wasn't raining, they'd probably would confront him. Franklin has been beaten up twice just for wearing his red suit. Once by skinheads because they thought he was gay, and once by a couple of Chinese drug dealers because his clothes pissed him off. He's sexy and he knows it. And because he walked on their sidewalk without the intention of buying any of their drugs. He closes his umbrella and enters the pawn shop. Jake, the fat, crooked-lipped owner of the shop, squints his puffy eyes at him and he approaches the counter. They nod at each other. In the back, Jake says. Franklin wipes water out of his soul patch as he steps behind the counter to the back room. Hello, Doodles! I'm reading.
Like it's like once in a lifetime occurrence.
I'm reading.
Ooh, look, I'm smart.
Ooh,
I can use the words.
It is filled with cardboard boxes, broken appliances, a glass case full of swords, and an overused sex doll with Judy Jetson's hair. Adam wasn't fucking around when he said I'd recognize you, Jake says, flapping his arms to air out his yellow-stained armpits. That suit is a fucking kind. It wasn't exactly a compliment, but Franklin smiles as if it were. I have all my clothes tailored in Argentina. Whatever floats your boat. Jake pulls a beer out of a mini fridge and sits down in the rubber chair. More like we're gonna get some death cake. He doesn't offer Franklin a seat. Some people blow all their money on strippers. Some people blow it all on faggy outfits. Franklin clears his throat. His hands hide in his pocket. Okay, let's see what I've got for you, Jake says. He opens up a casing of a broken VCR and pulls out a pistol wrapped in a white cloth. He unwraps it and presents the weapon to Franklin. Franklin's left hand curls around the cold metal barrel and he picks it up like a hatchet. Then he places it into his right hand. How does it feel? Jake says. Franklin nods at the gun and rubs his finger against it. That there is a Walther PPK, Jake says. Franklin says, wasn't it Adolf Hitler's gun? A Walther PPK? Where'd you read that? Jake says.
Emmett said this is a children's book for Charles Manson.
Right? I'm kind of a history buff. Franklin smiles and hands the gun back. So do you want it? No, thank you, Franklin says. I'm not interested in a gun. This is a common weapon, Jake says. It wasn't just used by Germans. James Bond also used a Walther PPK. Don't you like James Bond? My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. So was my wife's family. What's the big deal? Franklin head nods. Didn't Adolf Hitler kill himself with this Walther PPK? Just think of it as the gun that killed Hitler. Oh wait, that was Jake who said that, my bad. Don't you have anything that's not so antique? Something newer? I only sell classics, Jake says. Adam said you were a collector. I don't sell them for any other reason. No fucking way. I am a collector. I'm just doing the community a service, Jake says. Ever since their liberal government took away our Second Amendment, us collectors had to move underground. I'm not in the business of selling arms to straight thugs or to vengeful husbands who want to kill their cheating wives. You sell bullets though, right? Franklin says. Of course I do, Jake says. Okay, how much? Franklin says. Look, I don't think I even want to sell it to you now. You look like a fucking wife killer. How do I look like a wife killer? You look like the kind of guy who cheats on all the time. I'm not going to kill my wife, Franklin says. It's for protection. Maybe I'm not a collector, but I need this. Ooh, story time! Yep. Jake gives him a deep stare. Look me in the eyes. He says. Franklin looks him in the eyes. I can tell if a fuck is being dishonest if I look him in the eyes. Jake blows his snot into his fingers as he moves in closer. Now tell me, what do you need this gun for? Protection. Bullshit, Jake says. Who do you want to kill with this, your wife? Not my wife. Jake leans back and rubs the back of his neck, exposing crusty gray armpit hair. Okay, let's say I believe you. Oh my god, Louis. If not your wife, then who? The guy who's fucking her? Your boss? Some guy who owes you money? No, Franklin says. I would never kill a human being. But you're interested in killing, Jake says. I see it in your eyes. Story out loud for people. Thank you, Blind. I appreciate it.
What is this?
Just
oh,
right there. See it in your eyes. I would never kill another human being. You're not, Jake says. You're not one of them Candyman hunters, are you? Franklin breaks eye contact with the fat man. Just for a split second, the fat man notices. You are, aren't you? Franklin puts something furry in his pocket. Yeah, so? You believe in the candy people too? Yeah? Do you? I've seen some weird shit, Jake says. But I never seen any fucking candy people. There's a big part of me that thinks it's all a bunch of bullshit. But there's a little part of me that isn't quite sure. He cracks open another beer. A lot of people come to me wanting to buy guns to protect their kids from candy people. They tell me they've actually seen those things up close. I look them straight in the eye, and not a single one of them has ever lied to me. Whether they exist or not, I have no fucking clue. But I met a lot of people who truly believe they're real. They're definitely real, Franklin says, leaning in closer to Jake's eyes. I promise you. They are real, and I'm going to kill every last one of those bastards. Jake stares at him for a few minutes and snorts. Then he pulls 3 boxes of bullets out of the VCR. In that case, let me give you a little piece of advice. Shoot them at close range. You won't be able to break through their hard candy coating unless you shoot them at close range or get a more powerful weapon. Franklin nods and hands him an envelope. As Jake counts the money, Franklin examines the swords in the glass case, and something catches his fancy. It is bright red, almost apple red. He turns to the fat man and says, How much for the red cane sword? Love that southern accent. Thank you. There are no pictures in the book. In fact...
Unless you want to see the little candy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can see the little candy, but that's about it.
It's all in your mind. It's imagination.
It's better as these chewing gum accents. Alright, so chapter 2. Franklin was named after Franklin Pierce, the 14th President of the United States. Franklin Pierce is known as one of the worst presidents in history of the country for doing nothing to stop the rise tension between the North and South in the days before Civil War. He just wasn't a strong leader. He was the wrong person to be in charge of the country at that time in history. When he was young, Franklin always wondered why his parents named him after the worst president in history, but they wouldn't tell him why. Children of a candy cane sword. Wow, Living, you went there! He studied the president, looked for a good side of him, looking for a reason as to why they would have named him after a particular man. Franklin Pierce was a handsome, young, well-spoken, well-liked, and won the presidency in a landslide. He also accomplished quite a bit in the realm of foreign policy. Unfortunately, just wasn't up to the task of being president. After reading more about the president, Franklin started feeling sorry for the guy. Not only is he known as the worst president in history. Whatever, Josh. He also lived a very tragic life. 2 of his children died of diseases when they were very young. Then 2 months before Pierce went into the office, his 3rd and final child was killed in a train accident. Woo woo! Just kidding. Jane Pierce, the president's wife, blamed her son's death on her husband's political ambitions. During her stay in the White House, she went to the state of mental anguish. She spent most of her time locked in a room, all by herself, writing letters to her dead son. While in office, his wife turned on him, his political party turned on him, and even his vice president died 45 days into office and was never replaced. Eventually, Franklin Pierce turned to alcoholism. It is believed that he killed an old woman while driving a carriage drunk one night. It is also believed that he drank himself to death after his wife died of tuberculosis. He is the most interesting man in the world.
It's not in there.
It's not in there. Franklin still wonders why his parents named him after this man. He wonders if they did so because Pierce was such a pathetic, tragic figure in their history. He wonders if his parents viewed his birth as a tragic event in their lives. Perhaps they didn't want him. Perhaps they didn't want him and he ruined all of their hopes and dreams. Or perhaps they just wanted to name him after a president and chose the most handsome one they could find, without bothering to do any research on the man. With his umbrella tucked under his arm, his red cane, which contained a hidden sword, tapping with his footsteps. What his character on the screen have a is that Jake? Why is he naked? I have so many questions. I don't know yet either, so...
That's a candy person! If you would pay attention, we need to get the background before we meet the candy people.
There you go. He walks through the old, wet streets of Old Town to get back home. On the way, he runs into 4 children playing a game of can hockey in the street. Can hockey is similar to regular hockey, but instead of a puck, they use a crushed beer can, and instead of a stick, they use their legs, and instead of a goalie box, they draw lines in the road with chalk. They don't use skates or helmets. It is a game Franklin used to play with his siblings when he was a kid, before they were brutally murdered. These kids are Franklin's neighbors. He sees them playing in the street all the time, at all hours of the day. Even at 3 in the morning, he tries to ignore them as he passes, but they stop playing their game when they see him in his bright red suit and chase after him. Their legs seem to be too short for their bodies, even for children. Franklin has noticed this in the past. It seems that most children around their age tend to have a genetic flaw. Although the news channel have never mentioned it, Franklin believes it is something to do with the fetus-enhancing drugs that doctors are persuading pregnant mothers to take these days. "Let me see it!" one of the short-legged boys shouted at Franklin, the one with the thick-rimmed glasses. "Not today," Franklin says. "Oh, come on!" the little one says. The little one is the nice one. His name is Jimmy. The brat with the thick-rimmed glasses is named Troy. He doesn't know what the other 2 are called. "Just show it to us," Troy says. Franklin keeps walking. "Just for a second," Troy says. "You want me to call the cops and tell them you tried to touch my..." Troy always threatens to call the cops on Franklin with child molestation charges if he doesn't do what he wants. Because of this, Franklin often ends up buying the kids expensive toys or renting them R-rated movies. He doesn't know what else to do. Jimmy tugs on Franklin's red coat. "I want to pet him once," he says. "Just for a second." Franklin lets out a puff of air. Fine, Franklin says. Just 1 second. He opens up his coat and a small kitten pokes his head out of the inside pocket. Its fur is red, white, and green, candy-colored. Jimmy's eyes light up, and he pokes his finger towards the kitten's fur. The kitten deflects it with a lick of its scratchy tongue. This cat isn't actually a kitten. It's a midget cat. It is fully grown, 5-year-old cat that is stuck in the body of a chubby little kitten with plump cheeks, frizzy fur, and scratchy high-pitched meows. Her name is Crab Cake. Jimmy pets Crab Cake on the head. She closes her eyes and smiles. A kitty smile. She's a cutie! Jimmy says. Troy pulls out a BB gun out of his orange Naruto backpack and pumps the handle. Hold it there, Jimmy! Troy says as he pumps the pistol. I'm gonna shoot it out of his hands! Franklin hides Crab Cake inside of his coat. Fucking psycho? Franklin says to the kids and jogs away from them. The kids get angry. Wait! I didn't say you could leave! Franklin picks up his pace, holding Crab Cake firmly inside his pocket. Fucking asshole! Troy yells. Run away, you fucking asshole! Troy shoots his BB gun at Franklin's back. Even though the BB just bounces off Franklin's suit, it still hurts him enough that he lets out a small yelp. Besides Jimmy, all of the kids laugh at him. They chase after him, take turns firing the gun in his back until he gets inside of his apartment building. Troy is the reason why Franklin hates children. You quoted me? If I had boobs. Oh my god.
You like the story?
We're on chapter 3. Chapter 3! Franklin lives in a tiny studio apartment in Old Town with 2 women that hate him. His wife and his wife's mother. He calls them his wives because it feels like he has 2 wives whenever they're both around. His wife, Sarah, looks very young for her age. Her mother, Susan, looks very young for her age. They almost look like twins. He isn't sleeping with either of them. He tries to distance himself from them. The only thing they want from him is his money, which is never enough to satisfy them. When he enters the flat, he finds Sarah and Sousa having sex with another man. They regularly sleep with other men, but usually they are a bit more discreet than doing it froggy style on the rug in the entryway. They also regularly share the same lover, but they usually don't have sex with him at the same time. Franklin assumes they were hoping that he would walk in on them, so he tries to act as if he didn't faze him. Could you start again? No, Doodles, I'm not starting again! 150
Didn't even hear the other 2 chapters.
It's got
keep up, Doodles.
It's got 151 pages. Yeah.
If you want to continue the book, we can, this will be the book for the part 2.
The book for however long these chapters are for the next
book of the month
3
club.
Fridays. There you go.
Book of the month.
Whoa! Book of the month! Ah, I love it. Okay. He steps over the wriggling legs and crosses the room to his boxes. Besides the bathroom, his box is the only private area in the studio. It is a homemade cubicle he constructed for himself using sheets of plywood for the walls. He also uses a blanket for the ceiling and door so that his wives can't see what he's up to. To block out the sound, he listens to death metal on his headphones, which he initially only listened to because it was the loudest music he could think of, but he has strangely grown to enjoy it. It is the closest thing he has to a private room. His wives don't ever bother him while he's in his box, as long as he promises to never bother them anywhere else in the apartment. Franklin unfolds the aluminum chair and sits down at his small elementary school desk. He turns on a reading lamp attached to the side wall and pulls out a bottom-line laptop from the cubbyhole. After it powers up, he plugs his headphones in and listens to some Human Remains MP3s to block out the sound of sex in the room. He turns the volume up as loud as it goes, but he can still hear Sarah screaming at the top of her lungs, as if she's purposely trying to be heard of the music. His wireless card doesn't pick up any unsecured networks at the moment, so he's unable to log into the internet. This annoys him because there have been a lot of Candy People sightings in the past few days. He's been wanting to track them down or see if they have been discussions about them on the message boards. He lets out a puff of air and looks at the mess of notes and maps that are pinned to the wooden walls of the cubicle. His entire life has been dedicated to tracking down the candy. It is a good book, Doodles. People. Ever since he dropped out of college, it has been his primary obsession. He has other obsessions, such as reading historical biographies and inventing new types of sandwiches, but proving the existence of the Candy People is the only thing that is really important to him. Crabcake wakes up and climbs out of his coat, yawns and crackling meow as she crawls into his lap and goes back to sleep. Franklin rubs her belly with his free hand. Franklin has given up a lot in pursuit of the Candy People. He drops out of school to hunt the Candy People. He's lost several jobs because he was too focused on the Candy People. He's given up most of his free time to hunt the Candy People. He also married Sarah instead of his first love, Stacy, just because Sarah also believes in Candy People. He didn't like Sarah all that much, but he thought it would be happier with someone who could relate to his obsession. He didn't know that she was a compulsive liar before they were married, and that all the encounters with Candy People she told him about were complete fabrications. If it wasn't for his obsession, he wouldn't have married Sarah, which is one of the biggest mistakes of his life. He also moved to this neighborhood, even though it's very small and the rent is very high, just because this area has the highest concentration of Candyman sightings in the country. Franklin takes a gun out of his coat and hides it in some dirty underwear. He knows his wives won't go anywhere near his underwear. Then he removes his right ear, and pushes a small yellow button on the side of his head. He removes his right ear? What the fuck? The back of his skull opens like a sunflower, revealing his swollen oily brain. Ah! Besides giving up his personal life to the hunting of Candy People, he has also given up his natural human brain and had it replaced with a more artificial, advanced brain. He spent all of his inheritance on the operation. The brain is made of silicone-based imitation neural tissue that works as a hybrid between computer and brain. So basically he's a synth. It has given him a picture-perfect memory, the math skills of a calculator, advanced deduction and problem-solving skills, superior eye-hand coordination, the ability to think or read 20 times faster than anyone else can speak. He can also beat any video game without losing a single life most of the time. Although he assumed the brain would be a major benefit in the hunt for Candy People, it hasn't yet been much use to him. His two wives approved the operation because they thought it would be able to get a high-paying job with his new brain, but that didn't happen to be the case. The company stopped hiring people with artificial brains a few years ago after they discovered all the defects. Almost 5,000 people received the operation before anyone realized that the brains don't last as long as normal human brains. They have a tendency of breaking down, freezing, or frying in the way that most computers do after a few years. Many people who have had the operation had their memories wiped. Some had lost senses or had their senses wrapped or swapped so that They saw what they smelled and felt what they tasted. Some of them had become vegetables, and many have gone completely insane without warning. Nothing has happened to Franklin yet, but the doctors told him that it is only a matter of time. He might have had 3 days, 3 years, or 3 decades. Nobody knows for sure. But they do know that it will happen someday, and there is nothing that can be done to stop it. Much of the skin on Franklin's face is plastic. They had to remove his ears, the skin on his scalp, his forehead, or else the flesh would rip every time he opened his head to let the brain breathe. That is one of the things Franklin likes most about his artificial brain, is letting it breathe. His brain overheats once or twice a day, sometimes 3 or 4 during periods of high stress. When this happens, he has to open up his skull and let it air out for 10 minutes or so. Airing out his brain is incredibly relaxing to Franklin. It is like having a strong brandy and a good cigar at the end of the long day. As his brain pulses against the cool draft, Franklin closes his eyes, stroking his purry, candy-colored cat, and listens to the screeching music on his headphones that has become as calming as white noise. You're playing my voice! Oh my god! On the aux cable! That's so cool! In the car! So originally I was only gonna read up to chapter 4, but I'm liking this. Can I continue?
You like the book?
Yeah.
You like my books?
I'm gonna continue.
How many chapters are there?
I don't know. There's chapter 23. Yeah, chapter 23 chapters.
You'd have to read 5.
So we're reading 5 chapters today. Alright. Chapter 4. Alright.
Unless they want.
No, we're reading 5 chapters.
Okay.
Chapter 4. Franklin Pierce is self-employed. Replace and turn the sound on very loud. Right? He makes his living teaching pet owners how to give the Heimlich maneuver and CPR to their dogs. It has strangely been a profitable venture for him. People care a lot more for their pets than he thought.
There you go.
At first, he wanted to make money by selling a manual on pet care. He wrote a book called How to Save Your Best Friend's Life, a do-it-yourself guide to pet paramedics. The book teaches people how to save their pets from choking, drowning, heart attacks, bleeding to death, and other such emergencies that require quick action in order to save a pet's life. He sold a lot of copies in the pet shops and local bookstores, but found that more people were interested in taking lessons in person rather than reading his manual. So he started teaching lessons. He gives a group class twice a month and teaches private lessons almost daily. Today, Franklin is giving a private lesson to an old lady with a large angry Doberman who lives in the West Hills. When he arrives at her house, he meets a frowning, overweight, purple-haired woman wearing a large red bow and a flowery dress. Take off those shoes and that smile, she says to him. She tells him that her dog gets very angry whenever he sees someone smile. Franklin complies. As he takes off his shoes, he hears Crabcake meowing from outside. Although he takes his kitty with him everywhere he goes, he never takes her into a client's home. He's never sure how his client's pets will react to her, so he's always keeps her in a mailbox, or keeps her by the mailbox. Here he is. Oh, here he is, the old woman says as she presents her dog. Franklin lets out a puff of air as he sees the dog. The animal matches the old woman in every way. It is old, overweight, and wears a flowery bandana with a red bow. It even has purple hair. The dog growls at Franklin, as he usually does whenever he gets nervous. Franklin puts his hands in his pocket. Normally he does this to pet Crabcake, whose soft purr relaxes him, But this time he doesn't have a kitty in his pocket. This time he has a gun. He pets the barrel of the gun and finds that it, too, relaxes him. Franklin never wanted to buy a gun, even though he was hunting the candy people. All he wanted to do was capture the candy person on film and then prove to the world that they exist. Once the world accepts that they do exist, he imagines the military will hunt them down and exterminate them all. He has been successful at capturing them on tape 3 times. The first 2 times were not very clear. He got them from a distance, a safe distance, but they just looked like people in crazy colored clothing. Even though the community of Candyman hunters online didn't believe they were real, even he wasn't sure about one of them. But the 3rd time, he captured one of them perfectly. He was less than 20 feet away on the balcony above it, and was able to zoom right into the creature's face. It was like the creature was posing for him, stood there for a good 5 minutes. It was a perfect shot, the best footage anyone has ever captured. Franklin thought he had won, but still, nobody believed his footage was real. The cops laughed at him. News stations wouldn't respond to his letters or phone calls. Some of his online buddies believed the footage to be too real, but most of them were skeptical. That's when he decided that the only way to prove the candy people were real is to kill one of them and use the corpse as indisputable evidence. That's when he decided to buy a gun. As he teaches the old lady how to save her grumpy dog's life in case of an emergency, Franklin caresses the the gun in his pocket. He imagines what it would feel like to shoot one of the candy people, blow apart their candy coating, and splatter their guts all over the sidewalk. He wonders if killing just one of them would be enough to avenge the death of his little brother and sisters. He wonders if the military will do anything about them, or if he'll have to kill them all himself. The Doberman growls at Franklin as his lips turn into a large, wicked smile. After his job is done, and Franklin picks crab cake up from the old lady's lawn, he sees something in the corner of his eye. It is something moving down the street towards a small neighborhood park. Something with bright colors that glitter in the sunlight. When Franklin looks up, he sees pink cotton candy hair disappearing behind a grassy hill. And in the air, he smells something sweet and fruity, like a wet, artificially flavored strawberry lollipop. It's the same thing he smelled when he met the candy person as a child over 20 years ago. Chapter 5!
I have a lot of them! You'll hear more!
Franklin encountered the candy person when he was 10 years old. He was with his older sister, Hillary, who was 12, his little brother, Andrew, who was 9, and his little sister, Laura, who was 7. He had just finished playing basketball with Andrew in the park. He didn't like the basketball, but his brother loved it, and loved playing against Franklin because he always won. Andrew has only liked to play games that he was guaranteed to win. After the match, Andrew kept saying, "You got pwned," over and over again. Pwned was Andrew's favorite slang word, and used it as much as possible. "I pwned the hell out of you!" Yeah, Franklin says. "Don't swear," Hillary said. "I didn't swear," Andrew said. "Pwned isn't a swear word." "I meant hell," Hillary said. "Oh," Andrew said. And the 4 of them often visit the park. Visited the park. Andrew went because he liked to play basketball and climb trees. Hillary went because she liked to climb trees and make sure nobody got into trouble. Laura went because she liked to get into trouble and find toadstools. Franklin went because their parents didn't like it when they stayed indoors, drawing pictures and reading books all day. Franklin... How much domino you get? But he didn't completely loathe the experience. He liked spending time with Laura, who was his favorite sibling. Although she was only 7, She was fearless, clever, and charismatic. Nobody could stop her from doing whatever she wanted to do, not even Hillary. She was everything that Franklin was not. He envied her. While Andrew and Hillary went off to climb a big tree in the middle of the park, Franklin went with Laura to find toadstools. She liked toadstools because they reminded her of fairies. "How about this one?" Franklin asked, pointing at a toadstool growing under a bench. "No," Laura said. "It's too mundane." "Mundane?" Franklin asked. "It's boring and ordinary. I only want the ones that are special." Franklin pointed at another one. "How about that one? That one looks like a turtle." "Nah," Laura said. "That one is ugly and deformed. Only ugly fairies would sit on a toadstool like that. I want to find a pretty one so a pretty fairy will sit on it." Laura planned to put the toadstools she collected into a flower pot and placed it on her windowsill in the hopes that a fairy might come and sit on one of them. Then she would catch a fairy, put it into a cage, and keep it as a pet. Having a pet fairy was what Laura wanted more than anything. The rest of the family thought it was kind of weird, but Franklin thought it was cute. Laura and Franklin were the two weird ones in the family. Whenever Laura did anything weird, their parents would laugh. Whenever Franklin did anything weird, their parents would get angry. Franklin concluded that it was only okay to be weird if everyone already really likes you. When Franklin found a toadstool with pink spots and a light blue hue, he knew it was just what Laura was looking for. "How about this one?" he told her. "This one's perfect." But Laura didn't look. Her eyes were focused on something else. Something much more interesting. "What?" Franklin said when she would not respond. He smelled the sweetness of strawberry lollipops in the air. Then he saw what Laura was looking at. A brightly colored woman, kind of like a clown, was walking through the grass towards them. It was a woman made of sweet treats. She wasn't wearing any clothes, but her skin was coated in a layer of candy. She had pink cotton candy for hair, white taffy skin with cinnamon cheeks, plump gummy lips, and a maraschino cherry nose, red and white striped legs like candy canes, shoulders made of chocolate, blue hands that looked like gloves of a bubblegum ice cream, long butterscotch candy fingernails, a rainbow swirled belly like a giant circus lollipop, and soft marshmallow breasts with gumdrops for nipples. She carried a jump rope of red licorice and a large white bag. The only things not made of candy were her eyes, but they were as pink as strawberry soda. "Wow, she's pretty!" Laura cried. "I bet she has treats in her bag." Then Laura ran towards the candy lady. Franklin knew something was wrong with the woman. He could sense it in the way she glared at him, and her pink snake-like eyes, and the way she curled her hard candy fingernails as if they were raven claws. Even though he sensed danger, he couldn't help but become drawn to the woman. The sweet smell in the air that filled his lungs was intoxicating. It warmed his mind with a calming bliss that took away all of his fears and worries. It pulled him towards the woman's heavenly sweetness. Franklin saw that Andrew and Hillary were also drawn to the woman. They had climbed down from the tree and walked like drunken zombies towards her. They were even closer to her than Laura and looked to be twice as dazed. It was Andrew who got to the woman first. He said hello to her and asked her for candy. She didn't speak. She took him by the shoulder and pulled him closer, allowing him to lick her sweet candy stomach. That's her answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yup. You got it, Limit. As he closed his eyes to lick, the woman wrapped her claws around him. That's when Franklin noticed her teeth. Although her outside was sweet and pleasant, Her insides were nasty and horrific. Her tongue was like that of a snake's, and her teeth were razor-edged nails. The woman bit into Andrew's neck and tore out his throat. That's when Franklin snapped out of it. He screamed as he saw the woman tear into his little brother and thrash her head around like a shark ripping a chunk out of a seal. She made squealing, growling noises as she thrashed at him. Franklin didn't realize she was more like a vicious animal than a human being. Andrew's blood splashed into Hillary's face. She cringed and wiped the blood out of her eyes. It wasn't until she took her hands away from her face that she realized where she was and what was happening. She shrieked and turned to run away, but she didn't get too far. The candy woman whipped her red licorice vine at her and wrapped it around her throat. The woman jerked it back like a fishing rod, and Hillary's neck made a loud cracking sound. Then she fell limp to the ground. Franklin turned around, but Laura didn't follow him. She was still in a trance, even though she was just witnessed her brother and sister murdered by the woman. She was still drawn towards the candy smell. Franklin tried to pull her by the arm, but she resisted with all her strength. He tried to pick her up, but she kicked him as hard as she could in the stomach. He tried slapping her in the face, but she didn't seem to notice. The woman dropped Andrew's body and stepped towards them, blood dripping down her candy white chin as she exposed her teeth. Franklin pulled on Laura as hard as he could, but she would not move. Once the woman was within arm's reach, he had no choice but to let his sister go and run for his life. He ran several yards away and then turned around. He watched as his sister embraced the candy woman like her own mommy, with a big smile on her face. His sister didn't even let out a whimper as the woman bit into her belly. It was like Laura was so drugged that she couldn't feel a thing. The candy woman kneeled over her, coated in gore, pulling her insides out and stuffing them in her mouth. Before she died, Laura turned her head and looked at Franklin. The big smile was still on her face, like it was the happiest day of her life. That's the image that burned in Franklin's memory. It is what he has seen every day when he goes to sleep at night. And every morning when he wakes up, he sees his little sister smiling at him as the creature made of candy squats over her open body and eating her innards. The woman didn't come after Franklin. After she was done eating, and after Laura had stopped moving, she gathered her remains of her victims into her large white bag, then tossed it over her shoulder and walked away. His parents never forgave him for surviving the encounter, nor did he ever forgive himself. He tried telling everyone about the candy woman, but they all thought he was delusional after such a tragic experience. Outside of the old lady's house, Franklin pets the gun in his pocket and stares at the park at the end of the street. By the sweet scent in the air, he is pretty sure that there was a candy person who just went over that hill in the park. Thank you, Charlotte, for the host! Welcome to Freaky Friday theatrical reading. We are reading
Almost done.
The Cannibals of Candyland, and I'm actually almost done with this chapter. By the sweet scent in the air, he is pretty sure that it was Candy Person who just went over the hill in that park. As all he has to do is go after it, pull out his gun, and shoot the creature dead. It's that easy. Then his sweet little Laura will be avenged. But as much as he wants to and needs to, he can't get himself to go after it. He shakes with excitement at the thought of revenge, but he doesn't go after it. He hesitates, makes excuses, tells himself that he just imagined the candy person. Then he lets out a puff of air. He takes his hand away from the gun in his pocket and uses it to pet his kitty and hug her tightly to his chest. That is the end of Chapter 5 of The Cannibals of Candyland by Carlton Mellick III. Oh my god! Oh my god, that is sick! I'm gonna change this to social eating because my mom gave me some chicken nuggets.
Now we can discuss the book.
Yes,
Do a book review.
We can do a book review. Woo! So, how was that?
I can't read it. It's too...
If he wants revenge, he needs to die himself. Jeez, I mean, that's harsh. I don't know. I think I like that book. I think he's,
I know what happens.
yeah, my mommy knows what happens. I don't know if he dies later, but I would really like to have more, what's it called? Encounters with the candy people. Because he says he smells them, but where are they? He pushed his goddamn sister into his people.
Candy
People
woman.
eating candle. Right? I don't know, but if my brother was entranced by the candy eating woman, I would save my life. I'm more traumatized than Franklin. I don't think Franklin really cares. I don't think he's like showing very much caring right now. Have you read this book, Glenn? They're in my
They're in my belly.
Okay, so he hasn't read
He
this
has not.
book.
Nobody's read the book? I'm the only one? I'm the only one that's read this book. Well, it's my book. So.
Yeah.
Yes, the whole world of candy porn.
Yeah. I'm kind of upset that, like, his wife and his mother-in-law, like, just have sex right in front of him.
Well,
Like, they don't even know decency.
well, the fact that he tolerates it is more important to me
Mm-hmm.
than them actually doing it.
He doesn't care. He can't even remember that he's the one that killed her.
Well, maybe he's trying to avenge his and make himself feel better for killing her.
Right?
But we won't know until next Friday.
Oh, well, that's why he's fucked. Yes, next Friday we will continue on chapter 6.
If they want to. You think they want to?
Yeah, I got 8 people.
Oh.
That's why he loves stroking his gun late at night. Oh my god.
Well, he did have a cat named Crab Cake. That
I think that's adorable.
That he liked to stroke and kept his pussy in his pocket, so to speak.
How should candies have sex? I don't know. I know it's sticky though. Melting on each other. And Doodles just takes it. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Well, why not? There's candy people walking around killing people. Why would that not be in this world?
Right?
I think that's in chapter 9. Actually.
What? The candy people just go around killing people?
No, the candy sex.
Oh. Oh. You might
And
have
little
to skip
candy
over
kids.
that one.
And little candy kids.
Might have to skip over that chapter.
Mm.
Or just mad lib it.
Mm.
I definitely enjoyed this reading. Oh, Doodle said no spoilers.
Oh, my bad.
Doodle said shut up.
Oh, my
I
bad.
said shut up. I want to hear the story.
Do you want me to pick out the next book for next month? If you like this one? guess not.
You gotta give him 30 seconds. Damn. It's not immediate. Great. This fucking murder. Candy sex time porn is gonna give me mixed dreams.
I think you'll be alright.
Are you driving, Josh? I didn't know you could drive. Oh my god, yeah, no spoilers, or you'll get banned from my channel, mommy.
Then you don't get no porn books.
Oh, but I want porn.
And you don't get no candy porn.
Oh, no spoilers for the next book either. So you
No,
guys,
I just wanted to know if you wanted me to pick out the next book, if you liked this book.
so you guys do like me reading books to you guys. It's not too boring. It's pretty interesting. Cause I like it.
Because I picked out this book. And if they want, pick out the next book. Got their own book.
You both dirty people. You both dirty people. Oh, okay. Continue the horror story. Awesome. Well, I'll show you the front cover. This is the Cannibals of Candyland. Yeah, she's naked under there. I'm not gonna show that. But yes, we will continue this next Friday. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. We're gonna find someone that's streaming right now. Hold on. Fowlin. Let's see who's streaming. We're gonna go give Nikki some love. She's playing Black Ops 3.
Are you going to be on later?
No. Oh. Go in there and give her a big wolf welcome, and tell her that Domino sent you over. All right. Anyways, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Enjoy yourselves. I'll see you guys tomorrow.